Live from all over this beautiful land, this is the Testosterone Zone with the fine men, Noel, Keith, and Steve. Take it, boys!
All right, welcome everybody to episode 31 of the Testosterone podcast. This is Noel. I'm here with my bud Steve and Keith.
Hey,
and
howdy.
our special guest, Mr. Caspell. Richard Caspell.
Welcome, Richard.
Hi.
Oh gosh.
Okay, sorry. At some point, you're going to have to explain the inside joke as to why I'm going by Richard tonight and not Steve or John. Or
You're going by Steve too?
I'm not sure that's a story for our audience ever.
Probably
may not.
Probably is.
May not.
I think you're right.
We were discussing our marketing plan and yada yada yada. Richard.
Right. Period.
Richard made an appearance.
That's right.
So for those who have followed at least a little bit, it's John the cop. That if you want to call me Richard tonight,
that's cool. Glad you're here, man. Glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
We've got a full lineup today, and we not only do we have some college football situations to talk about, some updates from Steve, we also have a lot to talk about as far as our country and our history of our country today.
Right.
And so, John, we're glad that you're on to talk a little bit about the events of September 11th, which is 17 years ago. And we are looking forward to just talking a little bit about that with you. So,
cool.
Steve,
Absolutely.
First, I want to turn it over to you. We are ready for a really intense second week of sports updates and what's to come. So fire away, bro.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations to the three of us. Our backup teams went undefeated again.
By the hair of my chinny chin chin.
Really?
Yeah. Shoot, yeah. Keith's team Clemson won in a close one over A&M 28-26, and
Very
they
close.
could thank the refs for that one. But
Yeah, I have to agree.
Georgia, my team, walloped South Carolina 41-17, and then Alabama really had a close one against Arkansas State 57-7. So
It's a nail biter.
yeah. So as it currently stands, we represent the top three teams, which is a wonderful feeling because our real team will never do that until soon. So,
That's true.
so John, while we have you on, who would you say your backup team would be right now?
That's always a difficult one for me because, I'm one of those fans that if I'm not rooting for you, I'm probably rooting against you, So it's hard for me to find someone to actually root for that I really don't care that much about. But I'll give it a shot. And I look at the rankings and man, it's hard to pick because I can't go for someone like Ohio State. I just can't after the whole Urban Meyer thing. I just can't do that. And then you look at some of these other really good teams like Oklahoma and Auburn. Oklahoma's in conference. I really, the whole Baker Mayfield thing, I'm kind of burned on them. Auburn, they took our quarterback who was supposed to be here and be the savior of Tech football. That didn't happen. So I'm going to, and I don't want to piggyback off one of you guys. So I'm going to go probably a little bland. I'm going to go probably a little outside the box, but it's a team that's been, consistent for several years. They even had a big coaching change and just kind of clipped right along. It's from the land of beer cheese. I'm going with the Wisconsin Badgers.
Oh,
Wow, nice.
Hey, I tell you, they are strong. I'm impressed. Yeah.
They've kind of become like the new Nebraska where, they just reload. They've got just massive offensive and defensive linemen. They've got skill at just about every position, and they're always just under the radar. They just seem to keep winning and winning. And so I'm going to say go Badgers.
That is a great analogy to old Nebraska. You're right.
Yeah.
That is exactly, you couldn't have hit the nail on the head more. That's so true. So yeah, that's a good team. I really seriously considered that one. It's one of those, like you say, it's just kind of behind the shadows a little bit, just waiting to pounce.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good one. Good job.
Yeah, and just seems like every year there's just no stopping them. They may throw a game every now and then, but what good college football team doesn't? And so yeah,
True.
I'm gonna ride the Badger for a little bit. Well,
Okay.
Nice job.
Go, Richard.
okay, we'll go with that.
Good
Thank
thing
you.
you're not rooting for Oregon State if you're feeling that way.
We have broken down already.
That's right.
5 minutes, 11 seconds, and we're in full breakdown mode.
Here comes folks. This is where you change the channel. But
That's right.
Hey, at least I didn't say South Carolina, so that's okay. We're going
Or
with the
Louisiana.
Oh, God.
yeah, Louisiana. Of course, they won't ever know about it. But
No.
anyway. So guys, I got to mention, Tech did have a win. What was it, 77-0 over Lamar, which is basically West Louisiana. If
It basically
where
is.
they're located. And but as we look at last week's pick, congratulations, we had 10 people finish at a perfect 5-0 last week.
Nice job.
Yeah, nice job. And that list of 10 includes Noel. So nice job, Noel. John, you finished 4-1. Way to go!
Very good.
Keith,
Not
you were
bad.
4-1. And
I went against my better judgment with USC. I should have known better.
Yeah. My fight song theory isn't working in my favor so far, but
But hey, we have a new week this week, bud.
yeah, which reminds me of a game I can't wait to tell you about coming up here in a second. But
Okay.
as we look at the season, your son Keith is currently the leader at 9-1, so we're losing to a teenager right now.
We're gonna have to figure out a way to ground that kid.
Yeah, figure it out soon.
Yeah, he's serious about this, man. He's got spreadsheets and everything going on. It's crazy.
That's impressive.
He's loving it.
We do have another 5 listeners at the 8-2 mark, so in second place. So pretty close up top. I mean, it's very early, so anything can happen. So I think this week's games are going to be a little bit tougher to finish at 5-0.
Oh yeah,
and
bring it
get
on.
ready to hear this week's games.
Yeah, but you know what? First, let's give a shout out to. There's even some podcasts that are joining us. We got Now That I'm Older podcasts that are joining us, and so welcome, guys. The gentleman that we spoke with last week with the Road to CFB, he wants to participate, so he's in on it now. So we've had not only some listeners, but some people who we're getting to know joining us on this. So we're really glad you all are here. Welcome. And now we're ready. Let's fire away.
All right. So, the original rule was
Good
that we were
Lord,
going to
who's
pick.
spanking what over there? What happened?
Rich, you all right?
That was my weak attempt at a drum roll. Please continue.
Oh, I didn't know what was happening. Okay.
That was terrible.
It sounded like one of those old cars off of a 50s Disney movie. I'm not going to lie.
That was me cranking the starter on the old Ford, but we could just whatever. It's okay.
Thank you, Richard, for doing that.
Back to you, Steve.
All right, so as we announced this at first, we decided we were going to pick out a game from each of the Power 5 conferences, and we sort of decided after last week that we would do the Power 5 if there was good matchups available. If not, we're going to pick out some other conferences to choose from. So our first game is going to be out of the Big Ten, and this one's Ohio State versus TCU. The next game is out of the Big 12. USC at Texas, and that's a segue to my fight song theory.
Okay.
SEC is going to feature LSU at Auburn, and then we're going to pick a game out of the FCS Division 1-2A, North Dakota at Sam Houston State.
Oh man!
And then we're going to pick a Division 3 game out of the Centennial Conference, Gettysburg at Dickinson.
Oh my God!
It just writes itself.
Oh, that's
Richardson.
awesome.
If you go 5-0 this week, you're a football picking god. So that being
So
said, Noel, Keith, you can close your ESPN game prediction screens right now because these will be on there.
They're not even there.
Yeah.
They're not even on there. I tried. I'm cheating here, and it's not working for me.
Wow.
Wow, those are strong games. That's wow.
Absolutely. So
Now, who were they again? They were who?
Gettysburg at Dickinson. So Gettysburg is the Bullets, and Dickinson is the Red Devils. Gettysburg's based out of Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, and Dickinson is out of Carlisle, Pennsylvania. So it's a interstate rivalry, I guess.
Oh,
Interesting. Okay.
Man.
Okay.
Fighting bullets.
And if you're
Yeah.
curious, North Dakota, who's playing Sam Houston State, is out of Grand Forks, North Dakota. So
Okay.
they're the
Grand
Bearcats
Forks. Learn
versus the
something new
Fighting
every day.
Hawks.
Wow. Bearcats versus the Fighting Hawks. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. These are good ones, bro. Good job.
All right.
That's you delivered, man.
Yeah, there you go.
You did. You did. You have
delivered.
researched and come through on your promise.
So it's time for y'all to deliver some predictions here. So let's start that Big Ten, number 4 Ohio State versus number 15 TCU. This is a game being played at AT&T Stadium in Dallas, also known as Jerry World. So, John, we'll start with you as our guest. Who do you pick between Ohio State and TCU?
I hate you. Golly. that is so tough because Ohio State is always stacked, but they might be a little distracted. TCU, man, for a smaller school that's really had to make their way up to the big leagues, they've got the coaching. They've got Sonny Cumbie there who knows offense, can move the ball, and it's in Dallas. Man, that's a tough one. I'm gonna say the Purple Frogs pull it out. I'll go with TCU in this one.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Nice job. Noel, who do you got between these two?
Between Ohio State and TCU,
Right.
I mean, I'm going to go with Ohio State.
Okay.
I just think that they're, I don't think TCU's all that. I may be wrong,
Yeah.
but I'm going to go with Ohio State.
All right. And Keith, who do you have?
I'm gonna do the same. I think TCU is always prepared defensively, but I think Ohio State's just pretty darn potent, regardless of distractions that they're probably having. I'm not a big fan of what's going on up there, but I definitely think they should pull this one out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will also go with Ohio State. Here's the sad part is while the game's going to be in Dallas, which is, virtually, 30 minutes max from Fort Worth, where TCU is located, Ohio State will still have more fans there than TCU will.
Boy, that's
true.
fair.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's true.
So that should be a fun one to watch either way. So, all right, next up is number 22 USC in Austin against the University of Texas. Two schools that we don't have a love for at all, and
Yeah, it's like which foot do you want to shoot? I don't.
both with fight songs that annoy us.
That's true.
Yeah, you can't even go with that, can you? I mean, really?
Yeah. So, Keith, we'll start with you. Who do you have between USC and Texas?
I'm gonna have to go. I hate to do this.
You're not going to pick.
We're all gonna say that no matter who we pick. It's
I know.
okay.
That's the problem is I'm having remorse already.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with USC. They came off with a hard loss last week, and they always seem to play Texas hard. So, other than the national championship game, they're pretty darn good at it. So I'm gonna go with them. Go with USC again this week. Probably another loss for us because of that pick, but that's okay.
You never know. Never know. Noel, who do you have?
I'm gonna go with USC too because Texas barely beat Tulsa last week. It was like they beat him by a touchdown, I think, or something like that, if I remember that right. But
And that was at home, wasn't it?
Was it?
I think so.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah, I don't. I just don't think Texas has got their act together, and USC just got beat by Stanford last week, so I think they're probably pissed off. So
Yeah,
and
I
they're probably
think so,
still pissed
too.
off about the national championship they lost to them too
Yeah.
back in a long time ago. Anyway,
I'll take Texas on this one. I just, at home, I think by the third game, they're going to start to figure this out. If they don't win this game, then there's going to be a lot of question marks in Austin about this football program. So I think they know they need to win. I think they know they need to stand tall. So I'm going to go with Texas. And John, who do you have?
Okay.
Well, man, this one's tough. I mean, USC's coming in. They're starting a true freshman quarterback, and it showed last week. They just looked ugly last week. They couldn't move the ball, couldn't score at all. Texas does not have their act together yet. there's that controversy that some people think is a controversy that USC puts out in their media, that they can claim that they are undefeated against Texas, and the reason they can do that is because by NCAA rules they had to vacate that national championship game altogether, so it doesn't count in their loss column.
Huh.
So we'll allow that undefeated streak to continue against Texas. I'm not rooting for them. I'm going to sit back and just watch the Trojans win in Austin.
That's
Right. I feel the same way, buddy.
There we go.
I'm right there with you.
That one left a bad taste in my mouth, Steve.
Yeah, I know. I knew y'all would love this one.
I'm telling you, I need to go gargle or something.
All right, so next game is out of the SEC is a matchup. Number 12 LSU at number 7 Auburn. I think this is going to be a fun game to watch here. So
It's going to be a good game.
I'll go first on this one. I just see a lot of big things coming out of Baton Rouge this year, and I think LSU is going to got some momentum after some big games, big win over Miami to start the season, and they really dominated that game. So I think I'm going to take LSU to beat Auburn.
Okay. You're gonna beat Auburn? Is that what you said?
I'm going to take LSU to beat Auburn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
John, back to you. Who do you have?
You know, it's funny because kind of what I alluded to earlier. There's tech links to both teams. You got Jared Stidham over there at one end, and then you've got a couple of high-profile transfers at LSU in Braden Fajoko and Jonathan Giles transferred to LSU. And I hate that those three aren't on this team because I can just imagine what we might be doing with them. However, here's how I'm going to measure this. I'll measure this in how this affects Tech. Probably of those three, the biggest loss in recruiting and retention would have been Stidham. He would have been the difference maker here. I hate him. I hate Auburn. Go Tigers.
All righty. Very good. Very good.
Wait, which one?
Oh yeah, you're right. LSU. Sorry.
Okay.
There you go.
All righty.
There you go.
John declares victory.
I did. I planted that flag in the middle of the Ohio State field on that one.
Yeah.
Nailed
Wow.
that one.
All right, Noel, you're up. Who do you have between these two?
So has everybody picked LSU so far? They have,
Yes.
haven't they?
So far.
So far.
See, I was all geared up, ready to pick Auburn, but I think you guys have made some good points about LSU. They're very talented this year, and they seem to kind of have their act together. Played some pretty good games. The first couple games, they beat the crap out of Miami. So either Miami is really bad and LSU is just so-so, or I don't know. And they're playing in Baton Rouge, aren't they?
No, it's at Auburn.
It's at Auburn.
It's in Auburn. I still think LSU is going to win.
Okay.
I'm going to go with LSU. I hate to pick anything Louisiana, but, you know.
So far, LSU is an upset favorite. Keith, who do you have?
I'm gonna go against the grain, and I just think that Auburn is pretty potent. I think it's one of those years that they definitely have a chance to go all the way. I am as angry about Stidham as most everybody else, but I also know that the reason I'm angry is because I see the talent that he has, and I wish we had that.
Yeah.
And he's got a group of really good performers around him, and so I'm going to just say go Tigers, right, John?
That's exactly how that works.
No, I
Plant the
think
flag. That's right.
I'll be the oddball, and I'm going to go Auburn on this one.
Nice. War Eagle.
War
right.
Eagle.
So moving on to the FCS Division I 2A, we got North Dakota at Sam Houston State. That game down in Texas in Huntsville. John, since you are our guest, we'll let you pick the first FCS game. Who do you have between these two schools?
Have any of y'all ever been to Huntsville, seen the campus there?
Oh, yeah.
I have.
It is a gorgeous campus for a smaller school kind of tucked away like that. That is an absolutely gorgeous campus. And they've done, I mean, it's like I said, it's smaller, but the stadium, it's nice. You know, they've done a really, really good job. They've developed that program. Where I think it hurts that program is I think they lost their head coach. Was it year before last? In fact, I think there was some rumor that he may even come up here instead of Kevin Jons to be our offensive coordinator, but he went somewhere else. I don't recall where.
I remember that. Yeah.
So, I think just based on a recent coaching change, despite, probably they've got some talent there, I just don't know how well established Sam Houston is right now. I think North Dakota is probably just a little more established in what they do and how they try and reload every year. I'll go with North Dakota State.
All righty. Very good. Very good. All right, Keith, you're up.
Yeah, I'm going to vote the same way. Sam Houston squeaked by Prairie View A&M last week. North Dakota State won pretty decisively their first game this year. They lost last week to number 9 Washington. So to me, the loss and the experience gained by winning or by playing against a top 10 team in the country in an upper division is going to give them extra strength to pull through this week. So that's who I'm going for.
All righty.
Seems logical.
And Noel, who do you have?
I'm gonna go with North Dakota State as well. They have won multiple national championships and stuff. I think they win pretty much every year. They have, or they've at least play in the championship. So they're a good program. I think they're going to continue.
This is North Dakota though, not North Dakota State.
Yes,
I'm sorry.
It's not State.
Well, they're close to North Dakota State, and they're really good. So.
Yeah, so that's got to
By
be
osmosis. By osmosis.
I'm gonna go with them anyway. I don't think music can win.
His argument's shot, but he's going with it anyway. Yeah, whatever.
Screw
it. I'm just going to do that.
hot sports take there by Noel. And just so y'all know, those sound effects are courtesy of Noel.
Yeah.
I'm going to take.
Who gave him the controls?
I'm going to take Sam Houston State, and
Ooh.
only because everybody else is taking North Dakota, and so that's like my opportunity to hopefully get more wins than y'all. So
Fair enough.
there we go. That's my only reason.
I like it.
All right.
Good enough for me.
Final matchup, Division III out of the Centennial Conference, Battle of Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
Gettysburg at Dickinson. The Bullets versus the Red Devils. So I'll lead off on this one. I don't know why, but
Thank you.
I just like Gettysburg, and I know this isn't the same Gettysburg as like the Gettysburg, but
Do you know their address?
no,
Oh,
Never
my
mind.
gosh.
no,
That just happened.
no.
It did. It did.
No. It's not joke time, Nick.
Okay, my
I
bad.
bet they score 4 times.
No, that was 7 years ago, dude.
Sorry. That was 7 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. I'm picking Gettysburg.
Okay.
All right.
Oh,
Logic.
All right, Keith, who do you have?
so Gettysburg has lost both games this week decisively, or this year decisively. Dickinson has had a closer games. They lost one in overtime. They're both 0-2. So I'm actually going to go Dickinson on this one.
All right, Richardson.
All right.
I'm going to call it Richardson.
Richardson.
Richardson appreciates that plug. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right, Noel, who do you have?
I think before the whole show started, we started talking about Richard. So, and then later we find out that Dickinson is one of the teams that you picked. I think it's a sign, man.
It's fate.
I'm gonna go. It's fate. I'm gonna go with Dickinson.
Destiny.
Good job.
All righty.
Yeah.
Good job.
They're gonna overcome Gettysburg's 4 scores.
Awesome.
Wow.
So, John, as our guest, you get to clean up the plate here. Who do you have?
I get to clean up this plate. That's what I get to clean up. That's wonderful.
Sorry for you.
Did you know that these teams have a rivalry? If I'm seeing this right, this would be like the 126th time they've played each other in football. That's pretty amazing.
Wow.
Jeez.
That really is.
He's
knowing
got the
nothing
Google.
about Google.
He's got the
Yeah.
Google over there.
Well, somebody.
Anyway, go ahead.
Not knowing anything about either team, really, other than what someone just said about that one is lost less ugly than the other one so far. I'll just go with the Fighting Richards on this one.
All righty. All righty. Well, that's it.
Go Red Hens. Go whatever your mascot is. Go do you. Go do the do yous. That's it.
There you go.
I think Richard's on the Ocho website.
I think you're right.
Yes, the Ocho website.
So,
Wow.
guys, as y'all know, we have 31 listeners doing this, including the three of us. And it's been a blast so far. We really appreciate that we continue to have more people get involved in this. And
Yeah.
Definitely looking forward to seeing everybody else's picks. It should be a lot of fun. And
Yeah, this could be an interesting week.
It will be. A lot of wild cards in
can't wait
there.
to see how everybody does.
Yeah, I'm glad you're throwing this in.
Yeah. It makes it
That'll be
fun.
fun. Yep.
Very good.
Awesome.
Good job, Richard.
And Keith's son is still going to come out like 4-1.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
Oh, it just drives me
Yeah,
crazy.
spreadsheet
He'll be
for
undefeated
everybody.
again. I'm like, what are you, a football whisperer? What's the deal?
Yeah.
So we have John on this episode, and really, this is a special day that we're recording this on. We're recording this on September 11th. Probably going to release it tomorrow, September 12th. But today is a significant time in American history. Really recent memory, but still one of those memories that's starting to fade away. Yet we really need to make sure that it stays in our minds and hearts, right? So
Absolutely.
I'd like to turn this over a little bit to John. John, being a police officer, serving in that line of work, you certainly can understand and empathize with those that served in New York that day. I'd just like to turn it over to you to get your thoughts on this whole day and what it means to you and what it means to your opinion of the country, the way it's going right now.
Well, that's a lot. That's
You're welcome.
yeah, thank you for that.
Take it away.
Oh, you're spot on in that it's a day that it's one that those of us who lived it will never forget. But I think it's expanded a little bit because you think about 17 years is quite a long time. Think about there's just about a whole generation of folks that have grown up that didn't live through it. They know it from the pictures. They know it from stories and video. It's in the history books now. So I think our role, those of us who lived through it and can really appreciate what really happened that day and took it to heart, we need to make sure we pass that on to those who didn't live it, because it's different having lived it. I think I saw earlier Steve put up a post about, he can remember like every vivid second of that day. I think we all can.
Yeah.
So, it's a day where we all need to help those who didn't live through it to have at least a little bit of understanding. This is the day the world changed for us. This is the day that America changed. In law enforcement, first responders, I think we had always had somewhat of an understanding that, it's a matter of time before terrorism comes here. We don't know in what form or whatever. I don't think anyone ever envisioned something this grand of a show that went on, hijacking planes and using them as missiles. But I think we all figured at some point there's going to be some level of terrorism to come here, which is sad. But that's the world we lived in and live in now. The oceans don't protect us anymore. So, I hate to say it, but I don't think that those of us that respond to such things were actually really that surprised. I think it was just more the scale of it was really more the surprise. So it's good to remember. If there's anything that's of good that can ever come out of something like that, it's being able to pause and remember those that were lost, but also to remember those that run to those things. There's a little bit of a difference between some folks and others based on what they're called to do, what they're called to as far as service goes, service to their fellow man, service to their country, service to their communities. And you really saw a lot of that in how the first responders went to that. Not a single pause, not a single, hey, we shouldn't go near that site, without question, they ran to it. And so if there's anything that can come out of remembering today, remember your first responders. That they're the ones that when someone calls 911 and says something is terribly wrong here, they're the ones who are going to go to it and try and fix it. They're the ones who are going to run into the middle of that and say, I got this. I got you. Unfortunately, that day it cost many lives, but there was no hesitation in doing that, and there never will be. It really speaks to the tremendous spirit of good Americans who know that, hey, I may be called on to serve. I may have to go serve overseas. I may have to serve here. I may be nothing more than a good neighbor who sees that, my neighbor's house is on fire and I need to go kick in their window and go pull them out of the house. This is what we do in America. So, if that gives, if a day like this, as terrible as it was, gives us all a chance to kind of remember those that put others before self, then let's do that today. Let's remember that. The country that we live in now, gosh, it's tough right now, isn't it? It just seems that when you think back to 9/11, days after, you couldn't walk down a street block in any neighborhood without seeing a flag on every pole, on every porch, on every patio, on the back of every car. Just patriotism was just everywhere. It just feels so much different than that now. The country just seems like it's so polarized. Be that, everyone's kind of going into the corners and they just want to come out swinging for political reasons or whatever. It really feels like this country, we don't need another 9/11 to do this. If there was just some way that we could all kind of start getting a little bit on the same wavelength again, where we stop, looking at it from a Republican standpoint or a Democrat standpoint or a conservative or a liberal standpoint. If we can just have a few goodwill people to kind of come to the middle and just say, hey, y'all, knock that silliness off for a little bit. Let's talk about some things where we can all get on the same page. We're never going to agree on everything, but let's at least, in the spirit of what 9/11 taught us, is that we're all on the same page. Let's find those common areas and let's build those up, and leave the political silliness to those who don't want to participate and make this country great. It doesn't have to be a situation where you have to win or lose. Why not try and come to the middle on some things, find areas of agreement, and let's work on those for the betterment of every person in this country. For whatever those issues are, I don't even want to open up into political stuff at all. Even if it's just people sitting down and being decent to each other, just have people go out that may have different points of view and just have a cup of coffee and just see how their families are doing. It doesn't seem like we really do that as much. And there are other symptoms of why that could be. You think about, one of the big changes since 9/11 has been technology. How much is it if you walk into a restaurant and you just see everybody on their phones, even if they're all at the same table? They're probably texting each other and they're sitting next to each other,
Yeah.
So if we could find a way to, maybe put the technology down a little bit and get a little more face to face, eye to eye, and voice to voice, and really just talk to people, I think it's easy to rekindle that 9/11 spirit of, hey, we're all in this together. Let's go forward. It's probably a little tougher right now in the country, just based on where things are politically, ideologically. I don't think it takes a tragedy for us to figure out who we are as Americans again. Maybe it's just somebody or a group of people just kind of saying, hey, let's both put our guard down. Let's drop the gloves for a little bit. Let's go talk for a while and just find those common areas. I think we can. America seems to kind of ebb and flow through these times. I think of, when we're together and when we're not. I think right now we're divided and not really that together. We'll come together again. America does that. I just hope it doesn't take another terrible attack or a tragedy or something to really bring us all back together. It's better, I think, if we can do all that on the front end, so that when a big tragedy happens, and probably something will. It could be there's a big hurricane coming over off of off the coast. I mean, who knows what the next tragedy is going to be? Wouldn't it be nice if we were all on the same page before that, so that it is nothing but easy to go in there and just help your fellow man and run to the fire and run to the storms and run to tragedy, instead of having tragedy force us to do that. So I think we can absolutely do better than that. That's a good lesson, I think, from 9/11 is let's be all on the same page first, whatever that takes. And then when tragedy does hit, we do nothing but just love and help our fellow man.
And I think you see a lot of that. It's definitely divided, but there are pockets of the camaraderie that you have. I mean, I think about the hurricanes in Houston last year, and the neighbors helping neighbors do whatever they could to help each other, to salvage what they could, to partner together for greater things. You definitely see the pockets of goodness.
You absolutely do. You're right on that. And if anything, tragedy is one of those things that can even help force people to forget their differences for a little bit. I fashion myself probably a little bit more of a conservative person, but I'm not going to ask a person's political identity or whatever before I go running into, break up a fight and stop someone from hurting them. You just go do it.
You do it.
So yeah, you're right on. There are those pockets of that. It would be nice if that was, I think, more the norm than the outlier, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Today on NBC, I saw this story, and it gave me a whole new level of respect for the first responders on the day of 9/11. And, we all think about the massive loss of life and everything that happened on that day. But what I didn't realize after seeing this story is that loss of life continues to increase. And so many of the first responders that survived that day and ran to the events that were going on, they to this day suffer from cancer due to poor air conditions, various physical issues, and where they're going to live the rest of their lives, and unfortunately probably live a shorter life due to their heroism, due to their ability to run towards the tragedy. And I never realized that was something that was truly going on. Once I read that story, I was like, well, I should have known that, or but it just gave me a whole new level of respect for it, because it's gonna be a long time before that death toll stops rising.
That's fair, and I hope that those bean counters that actually take into effect the count of 9/11, I hope they haven't stopped counting, because Steve, you're spot on, exactly right. The toll continues to rise, whether that you were killed that day or you were killed because of that day. I saw something similar to that. I saw a thing. There was a lady. It was one of those real famous pictures. African American lady. She was called the Dust Lady. I don't know if y'all remember that, but if you Google that, you could see the Dust Lady. She was one of those who was just covered head to toe in that gray soot, walking out of the cloud after the second tower fell. And someone got a picture of her. She died in 2015 from cancer, they suspect, because of all that stuff that was on her and that she had inhaled. And so you're right. It's the first responders were affected by that, but a lot of people were. And so, the tragedies of 9/11 continue today. Never thought that would be the case, but it does seem to be true.
Yeah, absolutely. John, I thought your thoughts on how we unite as a country, and unfortunately, a negative event was, very unnecessary for us to have unity. But, I still remember, just like yesterday, all the senators out in front of the Capitol building singing "God Bless America." And, they're able to do something like that when it took very little effort. It was the right thing to do. And I just, I wish that's not to turn to a political, spin here, but I just really wish that's the way they approach their job every day. Let's do the right thing for our country. Let's do the right thing for our constituents, and take care of our country instead of dividing it. So
here's a you're right on. Here's a quick analogy I think that goes with that. And I'm not going to take a side one way or the other. Take the kneeling, I guess, controversy, if you want to call it that, the whole Colin Kaepernick thing where he's taken a knee. Right. Because one side of the argument is those that sympathize with that are saying, hey, the people that have taken knees aren't doing it to disrespect the flag. They're doing it to take a stand. but people on the other side are saying, no, I view that as disrespect. It doesn't matter what your intent is. That's how I perceive it. And nobody is getting into the middle of them and saying, okay, wait a minute, both of y'all, hang on just a second. If you two want to communicate on both sides of this, you've got to find common ground. You've got to talk to each other where you are. So if one person is doing something that may not be intended as offensive, but the other person is perceiving it, it's going to be really hard to talk to that person. Why not change how you're trying to talk to the person and say, okay, I don't want to do something that offends you. That's not my intent, but let's find a way to change the conversation so we can move this forward. Both sides have separated. They're back in their corners, and they're just not going to come to the middle and find a way to communicate over this thing. When it would be so easy, I think, for both sides to look at each other and say, okay, I know that's not your intent. Let's move past this and let's talk about the real issues that you want to discuss and find some solutions. We find these little things in there. And again, I'm not taking a side one way or the other, but it's something that people have said, okay, here's a line in the sand. I'm going to stay on this side and I'm not going to talk to you about this anymore. I think we're better than that.
Yeah. I'll tell you, I think little screens have created that more than people. I think being able to hide behind a little screen and post all day long your side without being able to sit down and be civil, that's created a lot of this.
Well, it really has the keyboard warrior mentality where, you can just be an anonymous person and just lambaste whoever. It's not helpful. And it really just makes people kind of sit back in their corners and wait for the next blow to come. And I think we can be better than that. Well, I really do think we can be better than that. But it takes intent, and it takes someone being the big person in the room and saying, you know what, I'm going to cross over that line in the sand, and I'm going to come stand here. And let's go talk. Let's go grab a cup of coffee and let's talk about some things. But who's going to be the big person to do it? That's the question.
Yeah. Agreed. Well, this is one of those topics that I hope that people start understanding that there is a chance to start reaching across the table and shaking hands, and I hope it happens sooner than later. I really do. And again, we try to, this is one of those things you kind of have to talk about. It's not a political statement. We're not trying to be that way.
Not at all.
We've never tried to be that way on this show, but it is something where we just want to say, you know what, reach across the table, shake somebody's hand that you don't agree with, and sit down and let's talk about it as Americans, not as you versus your color versus this color, your party versus this party. Let's do it the right way. So
I think that's fair. If we don't listen to people that have differing points of view and listen and communicate in a civil way about it, it's really hard to have real communication. Not that anyone's going to change their mind, but at least we can respect where each other is coming from. But who are going to be the people that do that sit down at that table and say, come here, brother, come, let's have a talk.
Well, man, I appreciate your thoughts on all of this.
Yeah.
And like I say, we hope as Americans that we can really come together and start being more, and I said this on a Facebook post I posted earlier, I just want us to be more united. It's time for that, and instead of divided. And so hopefully people can start seeing that and start thinking about their neighbors and going from there. So
you bet. And I appreciate you guys taking a day just to talk about this stuff. Because it matters. It does. People need to remember. A lot of your listeners, had said, didn't live through this, and so as we're sitting here, I'm watching a newscast where here in Lubbock we've got a field full of like 3,000 flags out there for a 9/11 tribute that they do every year, and it's just a good day to pause and remember that whatever the divisiveness, whatever is wrong in this country, whatever takes people and puts them in their corners. It doesn't have to be like that, and today is a good day to remember that. We can all be on the same team.
Yeah, we retweeted the post of when George Bush went to the Yankee Stadium right after September 11th and threw the game ball out.
That was
and
awesome.
I tell you what, to this day, and again, this is, and I'm sorry, but if you don't like the Michelle Obama George Bush relationship, something's wrong with you, because that stuff's awesome. Anyway,
awesome.
Side
Aren't
note,
they cute?
They are awesome. It just makes me smile all day long. Anyway, but. The point is that no matter what, it is just hearing the chants in the stands of USA, USA. I'm telling you, even today, I was getting goosebumps going, gosh, I want to hear that again.
Totally.
So
I remember how scared I was for him walking out there like, man, he's going to get killed.
I was too.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I know. He had some serious cojones for doing that.
He knew that's what
No
he knew that's what the nation needed at that point. He knew we needed to kind of have some sort of normalcy and something to rally around at that point. I mean, we had a big black eye at that point that day. So, but those are
it was good time for that. You couldn't think of a better timing and a better symbol of an American sport to do that with. So,
boy, no kidding. And for whenever he went down and visited Ground Zero, that's still my most iconic moment where he got to stand on that rubble and tell everybody through that microphone, "I hear you.
Yes.
The rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon."
that was
chills.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yep, very true.
That's leadership.
It really is. It really is. So, well, man, thanks again for really sharing your thoughts with us on this day, and our listeners. We hope that you take a second to just reflect on what this day, significance of this this time in American history means, and how we can hopefully come together again as awesome citizens that really work for the best of each other, not for the worst of each other. So,
It's good stuff.
Thanks, John.
I've got a question. For you guys.
what's that?
What did one tectonic plate say when they bumped into another tectonic plate?
Is this a dad joke?
Might be.
No, I think this is our science segment.
Yeah. Science segment. Yeah.
Science segment.
So yeah, what did one tectonic plate say when you bumped into another tectonic plate?
I regret to ask.
No clue.
Sorry,
No idea.
my fault.
Oh my gosh. Yep, dad joke.
Lord.
Dad jokes is
Dad
on.
joke.
Did y'all hear about the kidnapping at school today?
Oh no.
It's fine though. He woke up.
Oh, good.
Yeah. That's a relief.
It is. It's close.
Guys, I learned something new today, and I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, but did you know that Mr. Spock has 3 ears?
3 years?
3 ears.
No, I didn't know that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. He has a right ear, a left ear, and a final front ear.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Okay, that's pretty good. I've got to admit.
Thank you. Yes. I'm starting to get good at this. I'm starting to feel confident.
Yeah, that was. I'm telling you what, you've come a long way.
Well,
you know what I mean. You know what I mean.
Yeah. And that's
Richard?
true.
All right, Richard, you got one?
pressure's on. This isn't hard.
Okay. You know how in the age of technology, there's all these passwords out there, and they want you to have all these numbers and symbols and capital letters and lower letters and all this stuff. It wasn't always like that. Passwords used to be so simple that Forrest Gump even had a password he used for everything. You know what Forrest Gump's password was?
I don't know.
One, Forrest, one.
Okay.
Man,
That was a good.
poor quality jokes. This never happens.
That was a good one.
That never happens.
I know. It was a good day. It was a
That
good
means
day.
Richardson's going to beat Gettysburg.
You never know.
I completely agree.
I hope my namesake is up to the game. That's for sure.
I think so too. Well, appreciate everybody. Steve, you want to give us some final thoughts?
Sure, absolutely. On this important day in our country's history, I can't imagine as a kid, growing up and not knowing about Pearl Harbor. I didn't have to be there for that, but I thank my teachers and my parents for making sure that's something that I knew as a child and was part of my education. And I shared a story earlier on Facebook about my drive to work, and there was a kid walking down the sidewalk on his way to school, and he was wearing American flag socks. And I just sort of thought that as I saw that kid, that someone took the time, just like my parents and my teacher did, to let them know about what important events happen in our country. And I think it's important that we remind ourselves every year of this. So we love our country, and we certainly love football as well. But today is all about remembering those that lost their lives, and remembering those that ran to the tragedy and protected our country. So thanks to everybody for listening, and we'll see y'all next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks again for listening to the Testosterone Zone. We sure had a blast visiting with you. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe, leave us some feedback, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram.
All Testosterone Zone podcast episodes are written and produced by Noel, Keith, and Steve unless otherwise noted.
The opinions expressed in the Testosterone Zone podcast are our own and not those of our employers, families, parents, kids, dogs, cats, your mom, or any other entity Noel, Keith, or Steve are affiliated with now, in the past, or in the future, or ever.
No, you got the recording right now. You got it turn off.
I'm about to.
Okay.
Any moment now.
Okay. It's time for you to turn it off.
He said do it.
I did. Yeah.
Just do it.
Every effect that's ever going to be on is on.
Yeah, really.
So is this like a sound machine, a sound effect machine that somebody has? That is awesome.
No, we can stop it now.
It's really fun.